Books are a way for you to step out of your bubble and learn from people who have done what you want to do. And in this video, I'm going to go over my 10 favorite books that I loved reading last year. That way you can read these books this year. What's up everybody? I am Jasprit Singh from theminorityMindset.com, where money minds rethink rich. When the pandemic hit in 2020, life changed for everybody, including me. And in my state, we had very strict stay-at-home orders. So we started working from home. So now I was making videos and doing everything from home. And I needed a new routine in my life. So I started walking. And while I was walking, I started listening to audiobooks. I'm a really slow reader. English is my second language and I hated reading growing up. Like, I would never read books cover to cover. It was hard enough for me to just read Spark Notes. I only started liking books when I found money management books because I was getting exposed to a whole new world of entrepreneurship and money management and investing that I had never been exposed to in my life. We all live in a bubble. I mean, you only know what you see. And when I was growing up, the only thing that I saw was that I needed to be a doctor because my parents are immigrants from India, and like most Indian immigrants, my parents told me that if I wanted to become successful, I needed to be a doctor. So the only thing I was really exposed to was science and math and pre-med stuff. That's why I love books now, because when you read a book or you listen to a book, you can get access into somebody's brain who you wouldn't normally have access to. Like, you can't get access to Jeff Bezos, but you can read his book and learn about what he did and why he did it. This is not a video where I'm going to go over the best personal finance or entrepreneurship books. This is a video where I'm going to go over some of my favorite books that I read last year. But first, I got to give a quick shout out to Nate O'Brien, because the inspiration for this video came from his video where he went over 5 books that you need to read in 2021. So if you want to watch that video, I will link it for you in the description below. But in this video, I'm going to go over my 10 favorite books and biographies and business books that I read last year. But before we get into that, I need you to do me a quick favor and book that thumbs up button below. Book number 1 is Call Me Ted by Ted Turner. So these books are in no particular order. Ted Turner is the founder of CNN, and I don't care if you're a Fox News guy or a CNN guy, or if you're like me and you don't like watching the news, it doesn't matter. This book is one of the most inspirational biographies I had ever read. Ted Turner released this book back in 2008, and he walks you through his entire life journey, and he doesn't hold anything back. You're gonna learn about him being emotionally abused as a child. You're gonna learn about him going to military school and being bullied. You're gonna learn about him leaving his parents and not understanding why. You're gonna learn about how he was a bad kid. You're gonna learn about how he worked in his dad's billboard business and was attacked by leeches because he would have to be working in the swamps. Then you'll see how these things pushed him to take risks and start the first 24-hour cable news network, even though he probably wasn't ready to start the business when he started. The reason I really like the book is because Minority Mindset is in the media business. I mean, we are a financial media company, and it really showed me the power of thinking big and being willing to take risks, because I think we all kind of get into that mindset where we think we're thinking big, but we really could think a whole lot bigger. Back when Ted Turner was building CNN, there wasn't really a lot of national TV shows, and it was really hard to get a channel onto national TV. So he talks about all the risks and all the debt he had to take on in order to build the infrastructure to create this 24-hour news network, even though they didn't know what they were doing. They had no idea what was gonna happen, and they had never done it before. Ted Turner is one of those guys where he loves competition, and if you tell him you can't do something, he's gonna find a way to do it. And I really resonated with that because I kind of feel I'm the same way, and just hearing his stories and the obstacles he had to overcome was really inspirational for me. Plus, the book is entertaining and funny. I mean, he's gonna walk you through his whole personal life, and you're gonna learn about his love life, so you're gonna learn everything about Ted. And he makes it comedic too. I mean, he starts the book off talking about how he just lost 80% of his fortune, but he tells you not to feel too bad for him because he'll find a way to live off of a couple $1 billion. If you want to see what it takes to become a billionaire and you want to see what it means to really think big, Call Me Ted is a great book. Second is Delivering Happiness by Tony Hsieh. This one honestly breaks my heart to talk about because I read this book and I was so inspired by Tony's story. I was like, man, I cannot wait to meet Tony and learn from him and shake his hand. And about a month after me finishing this book, Tony unfortunately passed away from a house fire. Tony Hsieh was the ex-CEO of Zappos, and he talks about his journey of being an entrepreneur, of building a company, selling the company, having millions of dollars, and then feeling kind of helpless and hopeless because he didn't have a purpose in life. And then he talks about how he funneled all his money into Zappos, and then he built it into this $1 billion company. I think it really resonated Tony because both mine and his parents are immigrants from Asia. His parents are immigrants from Taiwan, and he talks about how that played a part in his life and his upbringing because his parents really wanted him to be a doctor. But he felt like that wasn't for him, so he got into entrepreneurship and tech, and he started this company, and he sold it for millions of dollars, and now he was rich. He had all the money in the world, but he felt like he had no purpose. And so this book was almost like him walking through how he found his purpose in life and realizing how his purpose had nothing to do with money. He walks you through how he fell in love with the company Zappos and how we kind of transformed the idea of just building a company to building a company culture and delivering happiness through your company. And so if you are trying to build a company, this book will teach you the value of how to build a company culture and why a company culture is so important. Like even for me, we didn't have a set of core principles or core values written on paper for Minority Mindset until I read that book. So it really transformed how I looked at our company. And this book is hilarious. You are going to have a great time reading this book, and you can really hear Tony's voice through the words. So if you ever feel like you're missing your sense of purpose, or if you're trying to build a business and you want to know why you need to build a company culture, you need to read Delivering Happiness. Third, Steve Jobs. Everybody knows Steve Jobs as the founder of Apple and the creator of the Mac and the iPhone, but you don't actually know Steve Jobs until you read this book. This book is so detailed that you're gonna walk through Steve Jobs' whole life. Like you're gonna walk through his childhood, to him building Apple, to him ultimately dying, and you're gonna feel like you know him throughout the whole way. Like you're gonna feel like Steve Jobs' friend as you're reading this book. This Steve Jobs biography is more than just a book on how to build a business. Like you're gonna learn that, but you're gonna learn more about like psychology and how people think and how different minds work. Steve Jobs' biological parents left him. And that trauma of being adopted and not knowing his biological parents always kind of stuck in the back of his mind. And that was one of his driving forces for wanting to become successful and wanting to do something so big. But Steve Jobs had a really hard time finding his place and finding his purpose in the world. He talks about how he went to India and lived there for a little while. He talks about how he came back to America and wouldn't shower for days at a time. He talked about how he wouldn't wear shoes and go to work. Apple's motto is think different. And this book really shows you what that means. I mean, you are going to dive into Steve Jobs' mind and you're going to learn what it really means to think different. So if you want to know what it means to build something from nothing, and if you're in a place where you feel hopeless and you don't know what to do or you don't know your place in this world, read Steve Jobs. Fourth, Principles by Ray Dalio. Principles is very different than the first three books that I talked about because Ray Dalio is the founder of Bridgewater Associates, which is one of the most successful hedge funds in history. Ray Dalio says that Bridgewater was able to become so successful because they were built on a core few principles. Ray Dalio is using his principle books to kind of give back to the world and give all of his wisdom to the world so people can learn from what he did. From an investing perspective, Ray Dalio talks about his investing principles, which made him a billionaire, because it's all about looking back in time to see how things have happened in the past. But he also talks about the principles that he has in his company and his personal life, which has allowed him to become so successful not just as an investor, but as a business owner and as a family man. So if you're interested in learning more about the economic system and how to create certain principles to live your life by, read the book Principles by Ray Dalio. Fifth is Shoe Dog by Phil Knight. Phil Knight is the founder of Nike, and in this book he talks about how he wanted to start a business and how he tried to find a business idea to then borrowing $50 to start the shoe business, to selling shoes out of the trunk of his car, to making $8,000 in a year, to now selling more than $30 billion worth of shoes a year. I really resonated with this book because when I was in high school, I played football and I loved the competitiveness of playing sports, but after high school ended, I didn't have any more sports or the competition, so I fell into entrepreneurship, and that kind of gave me that same competitive sport. Phil Knight was the same way. He loved running, he used to run track, but after he was done playing sports, he needed something to stay competitive, so he became an entrepreneur. It's crazy to think that there was a time where Nike didn't exist, and then there was a time where Nike existed, but nobody ever knew about Nike, and Phil Knight talks about his journey of being nothing to building a company that everybody knows about. Plus, it really teaches you the power of being creative and thinking different and taking a risk. Like Phil Knight was one of the first people ever to create something like influencer marketing, where he would reach out to athletes and pay them to wear his apparel. Believe it or not, when he was doing that, everybody thought he was crazy, but that was what put Nike on the map. So if you want to see how Nike became Nike, read Shoe Dog. Sixth is Elon Musk. This book is absolutely insane. Elon Musk became popular because of Tesla's stock performance in 2020 and because of Elon Musk's tweets. But if you really want to know Elon Musk behind the scenes, you gotta read this book. The one thing that I got from this book is that no matter how big you're thinking, you are not thinking big enough. There's a lot of similarity between this book and Steve Jobs because both Elon Musk and Steve Jobs think very, very differently. Like when Elon Musk was a kid, he wasn't worried about playing outside and playing video games. he was thinking about sustainability and colonizing life on a new planet. This book will walk you through his entire life story and how he thinks, and you're gonna see as a kid how he was passionate about lowering our dependency on oil. Elon Musk isn't one of those people that you can just call up and ask to be a mentor. But this book is the next best thing because this book walks you through his mind and you're gonna see why he thinks the way he thinks and how he thinks, and then you can see what he's doing in real life. And this book will teach you the meaning of passion because Elon Musk made millions of dollars, but to him that money didn't really mean anything, so he reinvested all this money back into his companies, SpaceX, Tesla, Solar City, because this is what he really wanted to do. So if you really want to understand why Tesla is popular and why Elon Musk is the way he is, you need to read Elon Musk. 7 is The Snowball, which is a biography on Warren Buffett. Now, while this is not an investing book per se, you're gonna learn a lot about investing and a whole lot more. This book walks you through Warren Buffett's entire life, from his childhood and hustling as a kid to make a few bucks, to going to college, to meeting his mentor Ben Graham, and now really starting to invest, and now starting his own company, to investing and becoming one of the most successful investors in the world. But one of the unintended things that happen in the book is because the book goes over such a long time span, from before the Great Depression to the early 2000s, you learn so much about history and how history repeats itself. You learn about the United States national debt and people worrying about a national debt bubble for so many decades. You'll learn about how monetary policy has changed over time and how that affects our economy. And you'll learn about civil rights without feeling like you're reading a textbook. This book will teach you to be a better investor, even though it's not an investing book, because you're gonna learn all about Warren Buffett's strategies as an investor. If you like the idea of value investing and doing fundamental analysis, meaning you're researching companies and you want to look for an undervalued company that you can own for a long time, you need to read this book. Number 8 is Finding My Virginity by Richard Branson. After I read this book, I started to see a pattern. Very successful people are all crazy and they all want to colonize life outside of Earth. Richard Branson and Elon Musk both have a lot in common. They're both kind of crazy and they both, since they were kids, wanted to leave Earth. Richard Branson is the billionaire founder of the Virgin Group, and in this book, he walks through how he built his companies and how he became who he is today. When I say Richard Branson is crazy, it's because he's partially crazy. I mean, he walks through some of his marketing ideas and how he always wanted to be known as a crazy person, and so when he launched Virgin Mobile in New York, one of his ideas was to be hung with a crane in the middle of New York, and he would be butt naked and his genitals, private areas, will be covered with a Virgin Mobile phone as a way to market his new company. You're gonna hear a lot of stories like that and how his crazy way of thinking and his crazy lifestyle inspired him to build one of these huge companies. Plus, it's really inspirational. I mean, you get to see the life of a billionaire behind the scenes. He talks about how he bought an island and how much social impact he can make with his money. So if you've ever felt like you don't fit in and you think differently, you might want to read Finding My Virginity. 9 is The Creature from Jekyll Island. So this book talks about the creation of the Federal Reserve Bank, and it talks about the monetary system, our money supply, and the Fed in a way that you will not believe. This book is called The Creature from Jekyll Island because the creature is the Fed, and Jekyll Island is where the whole idea for the Federal Reserve Bank came into play. I have made quite a few videos where I talked about money printing and inflation and how kind of the national debt plays a part into our economy. Well, this book is going to show you the power of inflation and the Fed in a whole new way. You'll see how sketchy, for lack of a better word, the Fed is, and you'll see really how our monetary system works and how money works. So if you want to take a step back and you want to learn more about our monetary system, our economy, the Fed, and how money works, you need to read The Creature from Jekyll Island. And number 10 is Onward by Howard Schultz from Starbucks. We've all been in a Starbucks. I mean, I don't even like coffee and I've drank Starbucks before, but I like to learn the business side of things, and this book, Onward, will take you behind the scenes of how Starbucks was built. So this book is really interesting because it focuses on Starbucks when it was being rebuilt by Howard Schultz, because Howard Schultz built Starbucks and then he left Starbucks, and after he left, Starbucks started to tank, and then he came back into Starbucks during the 2008 crash time, and he talks about how he rebuilt Starbucks to what it is today. Again, this book teaches you the power of passion and loving what you do and really believing in what you do. I'm not a big fan of coffee, but this book gave me a whole new level of respect for Starbucks and the business model, because there are so many things behind the scenes that you don't even realize because they do it so well. Like, have you ever wondered why Starbucks smells the way it smells when you walk inside? This was a huge debate in the building of Starbucks, because for Howard Schultz, your whole experience of being in a Starbucks needs to be perfect. taste that includes the way your store smells as soon as you walk inside. So if you want to see why Starbucks became the most well-known coffee companies in the world, you need to read Onward by Howard Schultz. Now, before I let you go, what are some other books that you recently read that you think people would enjoy? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, here's a video that I think you'll love, and while you're at it, subscribe to our YouTube channel and join our free finance and business newsletter. And as always, keep hustling. I'm not touching this Bill Gates vaccine. All they want to do is track me. Look, I really don't think Bill Gates cares to track how many ho-hos or Twinkies you eat, but that's besides the point. I am not your health advisor, and I'm not your vaccine advisor. I'm here to talk about the economy and your money.